Hi.
Hi, how are you, Laura?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Awesome. So I loved your work in Demonic, especially considering the volumetric capture technology that was used. And you had essentially 300 cameras on you at all times for a lot of the film. So for those that don't know, tell them about Demonic and a little about your character, Carly.
Sure. It was wild in terms of the volumetric capture. I mean, no one should have that many cameras on them ever. Like it's a very intimidating process. There's no place to hide. Um, so it was definitely unique to film, a certain portion of the movie with that technology and that process. It was new to me. It was new to everybody, really.
Right.
That application of it in a feature film to that extent was new to everyone. So it was kind of nice that we were all experiencing it together,
Right.
and stumbling our way through it. Um, and I think that it was a really cool element to the film because it it really it really portrays Carly in this fish out of water environment,
Mm,
and for her it's like she's entering, in terms of the conceit of it, she's entering her mother's mind. She's
right.
entering she's finding her mother, who's in a locked in comatose state, and she's finding her mother in this space. So it naturally has an element of terror
Yeah.
and intimacy, and
Mm,
also massive amounts of confusion and discordance. So
yeah.
to me, it was an element that I was really excited about for the film, because I think it spoke to Carly's journey and what she's going through.
Mm. And so you've worked with Neil Blomkamp several times before. You're writer and director on Demonic, of course. You've worked with him on Elysium and other productions for his Oat Studios. So what was it like collaborating with him, and especially on this project, where, as you were saying, everything is so new to everyone?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was so fun. I mean, I love working with Neil. I love working with him so much, and I've been so lucky to work with him as frequently as I have. I was really, really flattered that he had reached out to me about this project, especially since it's his first film back in so
Right.
many years since Chappie. So that was uh, hugely humbling, and um, and and also so exciting, and so easy to say of course to, like it was an opportunity that was not missed by me, and and also an opportunity to work when the world had shut down and things were very uncertain and unclear about how the industry was going to get back up and running again, and when, and so having this opportunity to shoot a film, especially one that was the size of Demonic, like we had a small production, we had a small crew, a small cast, we were shooting in small towns. It was all very, we had a small budget, like it was all small, and that felt really safe and really comforting, and also really exciting, because I knew it was going to be an immersive experience, and that became true through and through.
So I've spoken with Nathalie Boltt for Riverdale. She, of course, plays your mother in this film. So, and she's just delightful. So what was it like working with her, especially in kind of that arena, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, Natalie's like a firecracker that I'm just so excited is lighting my life now. Like, she's lighting up my life. She's a beautiful person. She's got immense depth and immense hilarity within her frame, and I just adore her. So having to play a relationship that was so fraught and
Mm,
fractured, can be pretty intimidating, because
Yeah.
if you don't know a person, you know, beforehand, having to build a kind of intimacy or understanding or a history
Right.
and relationship, for instance, can be really challenging. But Nat is just so open, so generous as an actor, so creative, and so like actively willing to participate, that it was just really simple. For the first, we didn't really, all of our interactions, of course, because in the real world, she's in a coma. So
Right.
all of our interactions are in the volume capture.
Right.
And we shot the volume capture at the end of the film, like at the end of the filming experience of the schedule.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so my interactions with her, poor Nat, were like her lying on a bed unconscious. And
Right.
that said, and she was going through, hours of makeup and special effects applications, and she had lots of adornments.
Yeah.
And, and so it was such a pleasure to finally get to work together. And then, of course, we're working in this very unnatural environment of volume capture with all these cameras and wires and screens and hard drives and lights and everything else, that it was a really strange experience that I think might have bonded us a little closer, because we were just having to sort of trudge through the mud together.
Right. And so I don't want to spoil the movie for people, but you got to do some of your own stunt work for some of the sequences, some of the key sequences in the film. What was that like?
Yeah, I did. I mean, the first bit of so-called stunt work was amazing. Like, I was just so excited. We had a wonderful stunt coordinator who was so protective and wanting to make sure that everything felt safe, everything felt good. So there was not one moment in time where I didn't feel like I could do what was required, or for that matter, if I did feel like it was a little bit too much, I knew that he had my back, and we would modify or whatever. But the first sequence was so much fun, because it was all adrenaline based, and it was all real. Like, it was just, you just go for it. And it was so fun. And then the second bit, Krista Bell and Janine Carlton both were my stunt performers, my stunt doubles, because we did a reshoot. So Janine came in for the second part of the reshoot, but Krista, who initiated that stunt sequence at the end, was so instrumental in helping me craft what that sequence would become, because it really is, I feel like it really is a negotiation between the two performers at that point.
Right.
Like, there's like the physical side of it that she's handling, and then there's the emotional side of it that I have to kind of blend in. So
Right.
it's a real dance, and I'm so grateful to Krista for heading straight out the gates with such aplomb, and then Janine coming in also to finesse the effort. So I'm indebted to both of those women.
Yeah, it's great work. And it's seamless too on screen.
Pardon
I
me?
find it's very seamless on screen too. Yeah.
Well, I hope so. That's what we hope for. We don't want it to be too jarring.
Right. So this film has been compared to The Babadook, to The Cell. Were you a fan of horror, kind of sci-fi hybrid films before this?
I feel like I'm kind of like a shy observer on the side of horror. I mean, I will say, like, I love a good sort of ghost story, and I definitely can be very engaged and immersed with like sci-fi horror. But I'm like a genuinely scared person. Like, I can't watch a
Oh yeah.
horror in my house alone at night. Like, I cannot do it. So I feel like it's sort of, for me, right place, right time. I do love the thrill. I love the thrill of it. I love the adrenaline rush of it, but I just have to, mind my P's and Q's and be certain that be certain that I'm okay in my physical waking life, in order to dive into a film that is full of horror.
Right.
And,
Right.
and can make you feel horrible on the other side of it. So.
Yeah, I had to watch this film in broad daylight. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, that's like me too. I'd so much rather watch a horror film in the day, which is totally counterintuitive to what it's meant to be. But I do that as well. Like I will watch it
Yes.
daytime as opposed to nighttime. But that's just me in a nutshell.
Right. So you've been on some projects that have huge followings, like Popular, like Arrow. So what's the fan reaction been like over the years, and what sort of comments have really stayed with you?
Oh, that's a great question. And anecdotes are my worst.
Sorry.
No, not at all. I just wish I had a golden nugget to share with you about that. I mean, look, I've been so lucky. I've been so lucky to work on so many things, but also so many things that have resonated with people. And some characters are going to stick with people, and some are going to infuriate people, and some are going to live and die in that moment. And that's the deal. It's all an experience. But to be able to do any of this and hopefully have an effect in any capacity, for better or worse, is kind of like what entertainment is all about. I think, you just like, I'm so grateful and so happy to work in entertainment every day that I'm allowed to, every day that I'm hired to, because it's like I really love the escapism of TV and film. I love it so much. And it was a big part of my childhood growing up. So to have that ability to work on things, especially work on things that might leave an effect on people or have an impression. I mean, I'm honored, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. So what have you been watching or reading or listening to lately that you've really liked?
Yeah. Well, I'm almost finished the White Lotus. I haven't watched the season finale yet, which I thought was, I mean, just amazing. And Mike White, who I've worked with before, is just like a wild mind. And I love the show. Reservation Dogs.
Yes.
I can't even get into how much I love that show, and I have to catch up, but I've just flown back from Australia, so I'm catching up on sleep first, and then I'm gonna get
Yeah.
And Dave is also, I'm just about finished. I have to go back on an episode because I was in a jet lagged state, so I have to go back, but I've got 2 episodes left of Dave. And those are all things that I'm watching. I'm reading a book called Lost Connections by Johann Hari. Really interesting, really insightful. And what else? I've just listened to Welcome to Your Fantasy, which is a podcast about Chippendales.
Oh,
and that's a
very
indulgent podcast that I loved. But yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much for the work that you bring into the world, Carly. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Have an amazing day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.